It's the winter of the year K412, and Rudeus is now 5 years old. Roxy has already left him, and he has been enjoying his friendship with Sylphie. And one day, everyone in the family celebrates together as Zenith reveals that she is pregnant with their second child.
Wait a minute!
Well, these celebrations don't last for long when their maid, Lilia, tells them all that she is pregnant as well. Oh yes, it's time for some Mushoku Tensei family drama. After hearing this news, no one even bothers thinking who the father could be as everyone's gaze shifts towards Paul, who immediately slams his head on the table and apologizes to Zenith, claiming that the child is probably his. It looks like the family would crumble as Zenith sits across Lilia and asks her what she plans to do now. She says that she would help her with childbirth and then take her leave and go back to her hometown and raise her child there. Zenith says that going back would require her to make a journey of more than a month, and after childbirth and with a newborn in her hands, she would definitely not be able to make it on her own, especially during winter. Lilia sadly nods and says that she really doesn't have any other choice, and Paul tries to speak up for her, but yeah, dude's in no place to say anything at all. After being told to sit back down and stay in his dark corner, Zenith gets back to thinking about her decision and struggles with it. Rudeus understands the situation and thinks that he doesn't want to let Lilia go either, as she has been good to him and they are like family. Well, quite literally now, thanks to Paul not being able to resist Scooby snacks. To make things better, he decides to dig Paul's already open grave much deeper and starts walking towards Zenith. He asks her why everyone wasn't happy that he would be having 2 siblings instead of 1, and she tells him that it was because Paul and Lilia did something really bad. He then says that he doesn't want Lilia to leave them, and that one night on his way back from the bathroom, he heard Paul forcing himself on her, and that means that Lilia shouldn't be punished for it. Hearing this, Zenith asks Lilia if that's true, and she denies it, but Zenith thinks that it's natural that she won't be able to say it in front of Paul. Paul wonders why Rudeus is doing this to him, but then realizes that it is the only way for the family to stay together and gives in to his plan. After this, Zenith tells Lilia to stay with them and calls her family, and then goes back to her room and tells Paul that they are going to have a serious talk about it later. With that, the situation calms down, and everything goes back to normal with Rudeus practicing, or more like getting his ass whooped by Paul in the name of training. Lilia feels really grateful towards Rudeus, and she decides to devote her life to serving him, and says that she will raise her child to serve him as well. Just like that, almost a year passes by, and their family is blessed with 2 daughters, Norn and Aisha. Rudeus spends his days teaching Sylphie magic and other basic school stuff and then follows through with his swords training with Paul. After the incident, Lilia also opens up to him and starts talking to him casually, and reveals that her relation with Paul actually runs way back as they studied swordsmanship together when they were younger. And well, that's when Paul fell in love with her Scooby snacks. After hearing all these stories about him, Rudeus comes to the conclusion that Paul is an utter piece of trash, but he still respects him for his strength, as he is considered advanced level in all 3 sword style. After their training, they have a non-conventional father-son talk, and Rudeus accepts that he is not much different than him, considering how he is a 40-year-old perverted NEET on the inside. And he also catches on to his interest in Sylphie, who he decides to marry when they grow up. One night, Paul comes to his room and tells him that he has a letter for him. Turns out it's a letter from Roxy, who is now a king-class water mage and is currently working in the Shironi Kingdom as the private tutor of the 7th prince. In her letter, she mentions how she thinks that Rudeus would already be an emperor-class mage, and then suggests that if he is having any issues with his magic training, he should consider enrolling in the Renoa University of Magic. He feels sad to disappoint the expectations of his master and thinks about it throughout the night. The following morning, he makes a request to Paul to let him join the university, but then asks if it is possible that he would be able to pay for Sylphie's tuition, as well as she would be sad being left behind. Paul says that he can't allow it because as his swordsmanship tutor, he doesn't think his training is finished yet. Besides that, he is still young and they don't really have that kind of money. Basically, they are poor, so yeah. After listening to him, Rudeus asks if it is possible for him to find a high-paying job for him, and he will work there and earn Sylphie's tuition on his own until Paul thinks he is ready to go to university. Paul agrees, and they all go about their day happily. A few days later, Paul introduces Rudeus to one of his old party members, Ghislaine. Like all of you watching, Rudeus becomes excited meeting a hot cat girl.
Yeah, boy.
Paul then suddenly asks him how he would feel if he told him to stay away from Sylphie for some time, and Rudius says that he would hate it. After that, Paul starts fighting him and eventually knocks him out. The next time he opens his eyes, he is in the carriage alongside Ghislaine, and she says that starting tomorrow they would be working together. On their way, Ghislaine gives him a letter from Paul that explains that he found a job for him and he will be teaching a 9-year-old lady at their house for the next 5 years. Ghislaine is their bodyguard and a sword king, and she will be teaching him swordsmanship as well, so he can keep up with his training as well. Besides that, he forbids him from coming back home or writing to them, as he doesn't want him or Sylphie to become dependent on each other, and tells him to work for it, grow up and become a great man. Such a great father, right? Instead of disappearing to buy milk, he sent his son to get the milk himself and told him to never come back. That's one way to do it, I guess. After that, they arrive at the client's house, and Rudeus meets with the lord of the house. He introduces himself as Phillips, and turns out he is Paul's cousin, making them relatives. Phillips explains that he will be teaching reading, writing, math, and magic to his daughter, but she is too willful and won't accept just anyone as her tutor. With that, they go to see the young lady. Eris, and Rudeus describes his first impression of her as intense and violent. Eris complains that Rudeus is younger than her, and he says that he is still smarter than her, and he gets replied with a slap across his cheeks. Normally, a peasant tutor would have taken that like a sissy, but Rudeus says that he fights for equality for all and returns the favor by slapping her back.
Nice.
Now he thinks that this would have turned out like those anime where Eris thinks that he is different and starts developing feelings for him, but he is knocked back to reality when she punches him down, gets on top of him, and starts beating the crap out of his face like a feral beast. Rudeus becomes afraid of the girl and pushes her back with some wind magic, and then runs for his life and hides under a table, wondering just what he got himself into. After that, he goes on to meet with Phillips again and says that he won't quit just yet, and they start making a plan to get Eris to develop interest in studying. He devises a plan that they would fake a kidnapping, and then he would help Eris out by showing her how cool and useful magic, math, and being able to read is. Following through with their plan the following night, they both open their eyes inside a cell with a couple of thugs keeping guard over them. Rudeus burns his bindings off and shows off how useful magic can be. Eris rushes to the door and starts calling out for her bodyguard, Ghislaine, but instead of the hot beast woman, one of the burly thugs walks in and starts punching and kicking her. He beats the living daylights out of her and tells her to stay quiet, and then walks back after hitting Rudeus a bit as well. Rudeus wonders where they got their hands on such good actors, and then feels sorry for Eris, who has been beaten bloody. He heals her halfway and says that she could have saved herself had she known magic, and then tells her that he is going to leave as he doesn't want to die there. He then breaks out of the window with his magic, and Eris calls out to him and tells him to save her as well. He asks her to promise to listen to him if she wants his help, and then helps her get out. Once out, he tells her to stay quiet, but Eris decides to be the kid she is, and starts speaking loudly, and says that she doesn't have to keep her promise to him. Rudeus says okay, and starts walking off alone like a Sigma male, and Eris soon realizes who's in charge right now and starts following him, and says that she was just joking. After that, they go to a carriage, and Rudeus says that they are in a town near the city, and he knows that thanks to being able to read the signs on the road. Besides that, he says that they will ride the carriage back to the town and explains how she could have saved herself on her own had she been able to read as well. Eris says that she will let him do it for her as he is her tutor, but Rudeus says that he wasn't hired because Eris didn't accept him, and that's why he doesn't have any obligations to save her. Later on, they reach the town and meet up with Philip's servant. Rudeus runs to him, thinking that it was a successful mission, but then suddenly the two thugs take Eris away into the alleyway, and the servant says that he wants her to come with her for some time. Rudeus runs in to save her, and the kidnappers start telling him that the young lady had made their lives hard, and they want to take some revenge on her. Besides that, they will use her to ask for money from Phillips, and he should join them. Rudeus says that he understands the value of money, but from playing so many dating sim games all his life, he knows that if he saves her right now, he will be able to secure a tsundere for her in the future, and decides to fight them and save Eris anyways. He shoots a flare in the sky to signal to Ghislaine, and then shoots the thugs with earth bullets. He dashes in and knocks one of them down with a kick on D's nuts, and saves Eris. After that, he starts fighting the other one with fire and wind magic, but the thug turns out to be proficient in North God sword style, and uses a sword-throwing technique to get them. Rudius thinks that this was it for him, but just then Ghislaine jumps down and in an instant destroys the sword and takes the head of the enemy as well. Yeah, she's really badass. After that, they walk back home, and on their way, Rudius thinks about his mistake and how it could have cost him his life, and he starts walking back feeling defeated and disillusioned. But just then, Eris stops him and says that she gives him special permission to call her by her name instead of Lady Eris, and accepts him as her tutor. This brightens his mood as well, and he decides to look forward and celebrate landing his first job in 2 Lives successfully.